Hi, I am Danielle, your host for this last episode of our series on the Soviet Union. After World War II, the world split into two teams. On one side, the United States and its democratic allies. On the other, the USSR and the Eastern Bloc. We call this the Cold War because the two superpowers never fought each other directly. They were too afraid that a hot war would end in nuclear winter. Instead, they competed in everything else. They fought through proxy wars in places like Vietnam, Korea, and Afghanistan, and they competed to see whose culture was better. To the Soviets, this was the ultimate test of Marxism. They wanted to prove that a planned, state-run system could outbuild and outthink the capitalist West. Nowhere was this competition more intense than in the space race. For a while, the Soviets were winning. They launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, in 1957. They sent the first living creature, a dog named Laika, into orbit, and in 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. These weren't just scientific wins, they were political flexes. The USSR was saying to the world, "Look, our system works!" But the race was incredibly expensive. While the Soviets were building moon rockets, their citizens were still standing in 4-hour lines for basic shoes. Eventually, the US won the moonshot in 1969, and the Soviet lead began to slip. By the 1980s, the machine we talked about in the last episode was breaking down. The economy was stagnant, and people were tired of the lies. A new leader named Mikhail Gorbachev tried to save the system with two big ideas. Glasnost, openness. He allowed people to finally speak their minds and criticize the government. Perestroika, restructuring. He tried to fix the broken economy by adding a little bit of capitalism, but it backfired. Once you give people a little bit of freedom, they want all of it. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and Eastern Europe revolted against Soviet control. By December 25, 1991, the USSR officially dissolved into 15 independent countries. The Red Experiment was over. You might wonder, is this all just ancient history? Not exactly. While the Soviet Union is gone, there are 5 countries that still officially maintain a communist ideology today. China, the biggest one. They kept the one-party political control, but embraced a massive capitalist economy. Cuba, still ruled by a single communist party, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. Vietnam. Like China, they have a communist government, but a very busy, market-driven economy. Laos, a smaller Southeast Asian nation with a single-party socialist system. North Korea, often called the Hermit Kingdom, it is the most extreme and isolated version of the old Soviet model. The story of the Soviet Union is a cautionary tale about what happens when a beautiful-sounding theory meets the reality of human nature and absolute power. It started with a dream of equality and ended with the collapse of a superpower. The next time you hear someone use words like Marxism or socialism in a political debate, remember the Red Experiment. Ideas have consequences, and history is the record of how those consequences played out for millions of people. Thanks for joining us for this series on the Soviet Union.